Turns out, I heard I had an expert on this actual topic, the pressures of dentistry and where we fall as far as this urban legend that dentists are the most likely profession to commit suicide. Turns out we're number 3 now, behind veterinarians and family physicians, which is crazy, right? But we are
it's still not good.
Still not good. Still
top 10 is terrible.
Still 2.5 times more likely than the average human to commit suicide being in our profession. And if I don't want to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but because we could talk about this for hours, but if you think about exactly what you were saying, like the micromillimeter precision that is expected from us to be considered adequate even.
So here we are.
This on you, Mark, this one.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, you can blame me. You can blame
Mark, look at your new hot studio, by the way. I just need to throw some just if you're not looking at Mark, then that is your own fault, because you need to see him in his studio with looks like a logo neon on the wall. Is that your initials?
The lighting,
there, bud?
your makeup looks
That's
great,
my
bud.
initials.
That's pretty sweet.
What's that?
Your makeup and lighting are impeccable.
Thank you. I'm shiny. I need
multiple camera angles. Look at that. Look at that
on the forehead.
You are making Craig feel bad.
Well, it's not hard to make me feel bad when you look that good.
How are you guys?
Doing good.
Everything's good, bud. Everything's good.
What is new in the world of very tall, very important men?
Well,
I'll let you go with that because he's important. I'm just tall.
What is new? Let's see. In the world of Bulletproof, I would say that we're just kind of one step after the other. It seems like we're making some impact with people, really kind of getting our cadence right in terms of content production. We're launching our 6th summit, Mark, kind of following your footsteps. Our mastermind is really fun, and Craig and I get a lot of value from it, and we feel like we move the needle for a lot of people. Again, we don't do it at this scale. I know you have a lot bigger of a classes, but we kind of keep ours around 30. But yeah, I mean, really, it's good. I mean, we're kind of just prepping, getting new content for our conferences. I know you got one coming up, right?
Yeah. June 16th and 17th is our 10th annual.
Jeez.
Which is crazy. And
y'all's are good, man. I got to tell you, Mark, I mean, I know I went there as a speaker many years ago, but like there's so many conferences you go to that Craig always talks about this, are just pamphlets for a bunch of bullshit in dentistry, like people, selling their thing from stage, or the energy is just kind of bad. And you had neither, meaning your energy or your conference is always good. And there's always good collaboration, and lunchtime conversations are great. And you don't ever have kind of that like salesmanship, like you should do this, follow my thing. And I really appreciated that always about your conferences, bud.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've learned just kind of by osmosis, I think, from a lot of people that I look up to, you guys included, that I think that the angle has to be, here's what's worked for me, and here's what hasn't, not here's what you should do. And I think that is subtle, but it resonates with people at a deeper level. Humility and the fact that, hey, look, this is probably not going to work for everybody, but here's what worked for me, and here's where I crashed and burned, and be explicit about how you crashed and burned, and how to potentially avoid that, how to navigate around those obstacles, and the gauntlet of practice ownership, I think, is really important.
How do you okay, so like you have a piece of advice, for example. I'm asking this because I want to know the answer truly. But you probably teach and coach and your audiences at all different phases in their life cycle of being a dentist. So how do you gear your advice kind of with that context? That makes sense?
It does. And we ran into this very early on, right? When we talk to people, there are people that are trying to get to their first, 50,000 a month in a brand new startup or acquisition. And then there's people that we have that have 17 practices, and they're gonna, crest maybe 8 million in EBITDA. So, and everything in between, like literally everything in between. So what we were tasked at doing is trying to figure out what some of the high points were, and what some of the benchmarks were for each phase. So we have phases 0 through 4. And when you're trying to get from phase 0 to 1, there's certain things that you're going to focus on, and from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4. On top of that, what we superimpose on top of that is a belt classification. So the phases are based just on overhead and cash flow and categorization, P&L, balance sheet, cash flow statements. Those are the phases. Superimposed on top of those is the belt classification, which is systemization, leadership, cultural strength. And we have assessments for all of that. So if you're trying to get from white 0 or from no belt to white belt, there's a certain handful of things that we want you to focus on, but not other things. For instance, if we are a phase 0 trying to get to 1, or a no belt trying to get to white belt, we are not talking about marketing. We're not talking about a $25,000 implant course, and we're not talking about figuring out how to get new patients. We're figuring out where the holes are in the bucket, where you are as far as systemization, how's the culture of your practice, how are you answering the damn telephone. Those are the things that we'd work at in that particular phase. And people often don't know where to start. So they're like, okay, so there's no money in the bank account, so I'm going to take my last $19,000 and then put an extra $6,000 on this credit card, go to this all on X training course, and that's going to save me.
Greg says
So
this
it's
all
just
the time.
yeah, and
about,
there's
this
going from
disconnect in
phase 2 to
dentistry.
phase 3. Yeah, going from phase 2 to phase 3, that's appropriate. But going from phase 0 to phase 1, it's not appropriate. So I don't know. That's long.
But somehow in dentistry, I believe we've been brainwashed. And Craig, I'll let you jump in, but it's obviously like, hey, well, practice isn't going so well. I'm not making much money. Maybe I should go to this all on X case. It's going to take a year and cost $50,000, right? Maybe that'll solve my cash flow problems. And it's like, wait a second, you forgot about the answering the phones, systems and protocols, the basic ass marketing, the ground roots, the ground game. Thank you. And yeah, Craig,
it's the default. It's the default. I mean, it's like when a dentist is questioned inside of a consult, what do they do? They start speaking dental. Like, hey, doctor, do I really need this? And like, well, yeah, your PDL is widened, and you got a this and a that, and percussion positive, and we got a inflammation around the apex, and when I palpated, and so we as dentists, when I think we get challenged, we just go more deep into our clinical comfort zone. So when your business is not optimized and it's running poorly, your culture sucks, what do? You take the $10,000 or $20,000 all on X. Totally to your point, Mark, wonderful piece of education to acquire, just at the wrong time. So there's no timeline. People don't understand this. And dentists also routinely think that if I could go to the 5-minute implant course, or how to place the 5-minute implant, and I did 4 of those a day, I could actually keep myself afloat. And it's, again, maybe a great course for you, but the wrong time, because there's an over obsession with clinical education and an undervalued interest in the business ops. And I think there's even a reticence for dentists to even want to admit that they're in business. Many of them are like, I'm not in business, I'm a dentist. And I think that failure to call it what it is also damaging and leading us down the wrong path.
Yeah, gosh. You are preaching to the choir. Amen, brother. It's so true. It is so true. Tell me then, in your mastermind groups, and I will tell you that 30 is not a small group. That's a big group of people. And yeah. I think 10, 3 large pizzas would feed a group of 10. That's like a great mastermind size. It takes a lot of creativity, and it takes a lot of planning infrastructure to be able to scale beyond even just 10. So congratulations on that, you guys. And tell me what you guys have done to plan and to create an infrastructure that works for, personalized coaching that leads to a larger group. That's number one. And number two, what are some of the main kind of challenges that you're seeing in your group?
So let me jump in, Pete, for a second. So when we started this, we made a lot of presumptions. So it's kind of trial by fire. We learned a lot. And what we learned is that we presume people actually understood what they wanted. And so we hooked on to their desire of what they want to create. And we started backfilling in the tactical steps to achieve what they wanted. And then midway through the year, we realized, oh shit, this guy really, or this gal really does not understand fully what they want. What they really want is a lake house. And they were saying that in order to get the lake house, they need 9 practices. And when they come visit Peter's or my practice and they see the infrastructure, like, ooh, I don't want any of that crap. I just want to make, X number of dollars per year. Like, well, geez, optimize one practice. So we kind of changed our protocol, 2-3 years ago when Peter had his pathway. So he created the Bulletproof pathway. And the step 1 is know thyself. And with a constant and consistent narrative in our field of you need to be dentist, the CEO, you need to have 4 and 5 and 7. This is what you should do. There's so much pressure from the industry forcing these young dentists to not really think about what they want. And they just hook on to someone else's value proposition. Like, I'm going to go ahead and just do this. And what we're trying to do is break that. So the first step, and I know this is a long-winded answer, but figure out what you want to create. And, getting everything you want not being fulfilled is the ultimate failure. And there's a lot of that in dentistry. We have people in our mastermind that are also 7 million, 6 million in EBITDA. And I'm working with those people intimately. Like, are you happy? Well, I don't know yet, So I think just figuring out what you want and really understanding it. It's based on your life and your preferences and what you want to create. And then we're all in. We'll help you with every single step of the way, from retention through marketing and systems and culture, and then all the way through financial planning and financial freedom as well. And outside investments as well, like alternative investments, real estate, and all that good stuff.
Mark, as you probably know, Craig and I have different superpowers. We've known each other, all 3 of us have known each other a long time. And that was a hard step backwards for me. To me, I'm always like, here are the 5 steps, just do these 3 things. And so what Craig is saying is it was likely a lot of my fault, running to get like, let's go. Here's what I want to do. Okay, here's the 10 steps to get there. Right. And then it was just like he's saying, like, people get down the road and they're like, wait, well, I just kind of adopted that cut and paste vision because I went to a conference and someone told me I needed 3 locations. Mm-hmm. And, I guess you can relate to this. One of the as we talk about KPIs, Mark, we make sure that we look at the master KPI, and that's people's happiness at the end of the day, right? It's not just, new patients and retention and net growth. It's, are you freaking happy? And if you're not, then let's go back and rework that pathway and create the vision that's ultimately going to leave you fulfilled.
It was actually an interesting, sorry to interrupt, but it was an interesting couple distinct moments that this transition happened. I remember we were in a summit once and Peter and I were up on stage and someone says like, hey, this is what I need help with, 1, 2, and 3. And Peter is like, let me help you. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, Peter, but I was like, this is one defining moment. I'm like, Peter, don't answer the question. This is live at a summit. Yeah. I'm like, what is bothering you? What is going on? And a couple more questions. And we peeled back that onion like, oh shit, this person just feels this. So people come, and I've been guilty of this as well. I'm sure we all have, where we actually self-diagnose and we diagnose ourselves incorrectly. We misdiagnose ourselves and we never go back and look at the diagnosis. And we spend a decade trying to fix something that was never really wrong in the first place. And I think there's a lot of FOMO, Instagram, and all this stuff doesn't help. And people say like, I want what you have, Craig. I want exactly what you have. I'm like, well, what do you like about it? Well, I want to make money with it when I'm not there. I want to have this or that. And they come and visit and they're like, holy shit, 50 people in a box and all these people, and you have to go say hi. I'm like, I love that. I'm an extrovert. I steal everybody's energy. But if you're an introvert and you want to build an operation with 50, 60 people in a box, it may not suit you. And I think if we can just focus on that in dentistry to unwind a bit of the narrative and let people choose their own adventure. And that's what Peter and I love about dentistry. It can be whatever you want. And if you're listening right now and you hate your business, you hate your practice, you can change it. You can modify it. There's so many outlets for you to pivot and grow it differently. So it's a beautiful profession, and that allows us to pivot and grow and reinvent ourselves over and over again.
There's so much wisdom to that. Holy cow. When you back things up and we're problem solvers, right? That's kind of what you do as a physician, is you're solving problems all day long. And sometimes when you take that mindset home, that underlying subconscious mindset home, you have trouble with your personal relationships because you are getting to tactical before you're figuring out what the root cause of the problem is. So when we are coaching as coaches and we go straight to tactical, like Peter's tendency, and and not getting to the root of the problem. As Jake Conway would say, traveling upstream and trying to figure out what the root cause of all of this business is. We find ourselves in trouble. I always now, with the infinite wisdom of having done this for 12 years and kind of digging deep behind the curtain of people's motivations and why they think they want certain things. I view it as a holistic versus an allopathic relationship, right? So allopathic medicine is you have high blood pressure and you're going to get, a water pill, or you have high cholesterol and you're going to get a cholesterol medication, rather than saying, okay, let's just travel upstream, 30 feet and figure out why it is that you have high blood pressure, why it is that you have an ulcer or high cholesterol, or you're morbidly obese. What is really happening here? And not treat the symptoms, but actually getting to the root cause and trying to impose your will there. So much wisdom to what you guys are talking about.
It's interesting, Mark, that you just said too, and it is a great analogy. It's a beautiful analogy. The traveling upstream to the root of the problem requires work for the person, the patient. So if we can think of our dentist that we take on, that's our patient. The easiest thing is to take the water pill. The hard thing is to behavior change. So it is actually hard work to figure out what you really want. A very famous quote by Richard Feynman is, the first rule is never fool yourself, but remember you're the easiest person to fool. And that's changed lives of people that are 10 times smarter than the three of us combined. So if we can fool ourselves, if it's so easy for us to fool ourselves, we have to understand that we don't sit long enough with the problem. We just jump to, this is what I need. I need 2 practices. I need to sell the whole goddamn thing. I can't handle it anymore. Call up the DSO. I can't handle it. But in life, what we really need is micro corrections. Losing the 50 pounds does not mean you don't eat and you have to run 20 miles a day. It just means don't eat as much, go for a small walk. I mean, it's like these are micro movements that lead to major behavior changes. And the thing that I see most is, unfortunately, dentists do not want to sit and do the work because it's called visioneering and some bullshit word that, but if you could just rebrand as a game plan, like we all know that when we go on a 1-week vacation, we have a game plan. We're going to go out there, we're going to rent our snowboard, we're going to go out, but this day we're going to do that. But people set out in the careers and not even have a game plan. Right. They just keep going over and over. And as you said so beautifully, that dentists have a very myopic perspective. Our successes and failures lie in a micromillimeter. You're a shitty dentist. I mean, I'm saying this in jest, but you could consider yourself a shitty dentist if you're off by 1/2 millimeter. And that's a really hard thing for us. And we don't allow and give ourselves the grace that we deserve. That's why we're leading the pack in suicide and depression, all this stuff, because our failure and success could be a couple microns. And it's really troubling. I do believe that the dentist perspective, the narrow-minded, myopic perspective, the dentist does translate over into their other portions of the world. You can't be myopic in business. If you want to grow, you can. I mean, Papa John's Pizza, it's not as good as the first location when you had 100 of them or 500. So you have to be macro in business and in life. And micro always gets you upset, I think.
Oh man, that is amazing.
That was good.
I love this whole conversation. Turns out, I had an expert on this actual topic, the pressures of dentistry and where we fall as far as this urban legend that dentists are the most likely profession to commit suicide. Turns out we're number 3 now, behind veterinarians and family physicians, which is crazy, right? But we are
still not good.
Still not good. Still
top 10 is terrible.
Still 2.5 times more likely than the average human to commit suicide being in our profession. And if, I don't want to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but because we could talk about this for hours, but if you think about exactly what you were saying, like the micromillimeter precision that is expected from us to be considered adequate even, right? And in addition to that, I truly believe that unless you've sat in the doctor's stool and had the pressure of $292,000 in student loans and $1 million for the dental practice, and 16 people looking at you to be compassionate and to lead them effectively, and to have, the
with no training, by the way, with no training,
with no business training.
That's right.
No training, not even
training.
an hour of leadership training.
None. And they'll give you $1 million to buy one or start one, but they don't give you any background as far as what needs to happen to be an effective leader. So it is my contention that with all of these things that we are expected to be excellent at, and then come home after, all of those pressures pushing on you all day long, and be the perfect spouse, the perfect parent, the perfect soccer coach. That is a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
So,
And I want to add two
makes
layers.
perfect sense to me that we feel this pressure and stress, and that, that anxiety levels and depression are so high in our profession.
Add two layers to that too, not to compound it, but the industry telling you what you should do. You got all the dental supply companies that you should have this equipment, you should buy this. So it compounds the financial pressure. And the last thing is what Peter always loves to say is, and then you have the dental community, which is a firing squad shaped in a circle. Your patient leaves for a second opinion, and the average dentist will shit talk you and bury your colleague. And that is, I mean, if you think about our clinical careers, think about those times that you got shit talk. I mean, have you, Peter? Have you been,
Yeah,
or Mark?
Of course.
I mean, it's crazy. Like, we literally try our best. You have a patient gagging. It's distal margin of 15, and it's jagged because the patient can't sit still. And 90% of our colleagues will say, that's terrible. This is terrible work. And it's so hurtful that we don't even have the support of our colleagues. That's why these podcasts are so great, because they're open forums for grace and dialogue. If nothing else, if we don't ever help another dentist, just the fact that we're talking like this, and then the three of us who are, supposedly high up in our careers or whatever, that this has happened to us, know that it's painful and that we've gone through it as well. And it's not cool. And we need to stop that immediately. Medical doctors will never do that, or very rarely do that. And I think it's part, and I know I'm on a tangent. I'll just put a bookend on this. When doctors train, medical doctors train, it is the doctor and the patient versus the disease. When dentists train, it is me and your disease against the patient. Oh, you have TMJ? I'll fix it. I'll take it all away. Spend this money. I'll take it all away. That's complete bullshit.
And if I don't fix it, or if it fails,
yeah,
I'll refund your money.
Right. But like when you're a medical patient, Mrs. Jones, you have cancer. It's a very virulent type of cancer. We're going to try our best, and I'm going to help you fight your disease. We assume the
but
problem.
But if it doesn't work, that's just medicine.
Yeah. So it's hard, because when we build that bridge, and they don't brush their teeth, and our crown fails. Like, this only lasted 2 years. You haven't brushed your teeth in 2 years, and you eat Tic Tacs for breakfast. Like, that's not my fault. My job was to close the margin. The fact that you decayed under your margin, but and it's frustrating. But I'll end my tirade.
Let's go. I think that people, obviously it's a very important topic, but I think that I want to.
We're done. I got excited.
I want to migrate to a happy
Mark
place.
praises me, and it gets me like feeling good. He's very nice whenever you say something. He's like, that was brilliant. So you feel good. I like that, Mark.
Don't touch into Craig's feelings, Mark. We'll be here
don't
all
do
day.
it, Mark. Yeah,
it's scary.
We're out of time now.
In there.
Mark, you I think we've illustrated, you obviously have the data and you've done this you've coached practices, you've had multiple practices. So you have a lot of data that's coming in front of you all the time. Like, what are you seeing from an outlook in dentistry? Obviously you may need to combine some of that with the kind of the macroeconomic climate that we have, or you're seeing, or we're hearing. But also compounded with maybe trends that you're seeing from some of your clients or coaching. I know it's a pretty broad thing. Like, I should ask specifically, what are you seeing this? But I'm asking, like, how are you feeling? How are you and your clients feeling? How are you feeling about the outlooks?
Yep. Thank you. I'm going to pull on a few different strings here, because numbers are just kind of intriguing and shocking a lot of times. And I think that few people understand how to, I guess, look at statistics in an objective way. So I will tell you this, some things that are irrefutable. 80% of dentists are physically and emotionally exhausted. Greater than 70% of dentists, not just people in the general public, of dentists, claim to have, or are believed to have, some sort of an anxiety or depressive situation happening. And greater than 50% of dentists wish that they would have selected a different profession, which is
breaks
the
my
saddest. So those are just some things that I'm going to toss out there. What we're doing over here at DSN is we're actually joining forces with a therapy group. So everybody that's inside DSN is going to have access to at least, an hour of therapy a month at no extra cost. That's all going to be virtual. It's a virtual therapy group that we're going to start integrating into dentistry, because I honestly think that this is an epidemic that we have to do something about. So that's one thing.
Greg
I'm gonna
serves
set
as
that-
our in-house therapist, just so you know, Mark. So we have that. We have that too.
That's amazing. I wish we had one. We don't have one.
I'm here for you anytime you want, Mark.
I will.
No,
Okay.
I meant that
Secondly-
sincerely. That came out as like a bit of a jest, but this is heartbreaking. But kudos to you for stepping into
data.
that role and giving
Right.
yourself permission to do that.
Second,
I appreciate that. And this is a hard right turn. This has nothing to do with the previous statistics. And that is, I have it on good authority from a lot of different brokers, attorneys, transition specialists. The prognostication across the board is that we will be between 65 and 80% consolidated within the next 8 years, which is crazy to me. Right now, we're currently
65% consolidated within
60
the
to
next
85.
65 to 80% consolidated.
We'll call
and
it
that's the range.
72.
Yeah, we'll call it 70
in the next
plus
8
percent
years.
consolidated. In the next 7 to 8 years. Yes. So
Okay.
Where are we at now,
That-
Mark? Approximately,
we're
according to.
a little bit less than 30%.
Holy smokes, that's a
So
big uptick.
So the delta of 50% increase in 8 years.
100% increase.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, yes, 100+%. I'm saying, yeah, go ahead.
Now take that with a grain of salt, because these are prognostications, and but these are people that I trust that are throwing these trends and their predictions out there. What to do with that? There's a lot of different ways of looking at this. I know you guys are part of a coaching group. I know more than a handful of coaching groups that are starting to consolidate and create their own DSOs. So if it's an inevitable wave and the money is out there, maybe we join forces with our friends and do it the right way, potentially. That's one way to combat this potential. That's
that
one way
one.
to combat this potential wave that's coming upon us. The next is, there's still going to be 25% that are going to be independent. They're going to be the late adopters, and they're going to be the people that are digging their heels in and say, I'm going to remain independent. And there's still more benefits to going independent than there is to consolidate, no matter what you say. So that's another way of looking at it. But either way you look at it, there's going to be the necessity in the next 5 to 7 years to become a different type of dentist. You have to be if you want to remain entrepreneurial, you're going to have to look at your business and your practice a different way.
Do you think this consolidation, or this rapid increase in consolidation, is predicated on fear, Mark? Because in my opinion, it's not on the money, right? Because if you really break down the offers that you're given, you had like Craig and I have a friend, you had the money all along. You had the money all
Right,
along.
but Peter,
it's just built in your equity.
I want to interrupt you, because it takes a sophisticated financial analyst, and you being one and Mark being one, to understand that the money that you're being offered that deal is not as great. You're actually most likely being paid with your own money. So when you get the offer waved around that your practice is worth, 8 times or 7 times your EBITDA, and you don't really understand it properly. I think the average dentist does not realize that they're buying you with your own money.
So Mark, what do you think it is? What do you think do you think it's
Is it financial or fear?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's fear of missing out for sure. I think that when you do say, hey, I can get you a 7 on your $1 million EBITDA practice, which is $7 million. And if you take your 20% capital gains off of there, I'm still going to be left with this. If Mark is right, because I heard him on the podcast that we're going to be 70% consolidated in the next 7 years, I'm going to miss the boat unless I do this now, because these multiples will never be higher. And like
a musical chairs thing, meaning like the music's going to stop and I'm going to be left with my whatever in my hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I have these conversations all the time. These are probably the main conversations that I'm having right now, because like you guys, I'm dealing with, lots and lots of people that have extremely sophisticated practices that are very profitable. So they're calling me up and saying, hey, is it time? Is it time? I got offered a 10, Mark. What do I do? And to me, that's generally generational money. But I'm 38 years old. What am I going to do after this?
Yep.
I don't have a plan for this lump sum of cash when it comes in. I'm not lined up with, 16 different alternative investments that are going to get me 12% a year. So what do I do with this? Right now, it feels as though staying and slogging it out for the next 10 years seems like a better alternative than taking the money off the table. I'm just posing this as a common scenario that I hear over and over again. And I don't necessarily have a cookie cutter answer because it's different for every person. Like if I knew somebody that had 5 or 6, a really, really good advisor had 5 or 6 different options, different buckets, so they could diversify this lump sum of $10 million plus post-tax, and they can assure themselves that they can safely average about 8%. I would feel good about saying, hey man, it sounds like
Well, it
you've done
depends
your
on the
research.
burn rate though, bro. I mean,
Yeah,
someone that's
Exactly.
so if someone that spends $100,000 a year and someone that spends, there's a lot of, unfortunately, one of the reasons why most dentists can't retire at the age of 65 is we make more each year, but we spend more. We're very poor savers. So that it's very nuanced. And also your happiness. I have a lot of affluent friends who have sold their businesses, and life post sale is not as purposeful. I think the magic is when you realize, and you've done, good financial planning, and you have a good net worth analysis, and you realize like, oh shit, I could give this up and I'm working because it's fun. That's when life becomes magical. Like when you work because you believe you want to and you don't have to. If you can get to that point, that's where I think it's cool.
Craig and I are kind of, if you can't tell by the tone of our talk, we've kind of, we are really more on the path of keeping your practice, amplifying your practice, amplifying your cash flow, increasing your profitability. Because once you do sell, like we've been saying, and Craig and I personally have gone through this process multiple times with a big ass number that's been dangled in front of you, and you're thinking, holy shit, that's everything. But then when you break it down, you're like, wait a second, I'm going to get a lump check. I'm going to pay some taxes. I'm going to be out of dentistry or be an employee. And now I'm going to have to take this lump sum of money, and I'm going to have to get yield on that money, like I did when I had it in my practice, that equity in my practice creating yield for me. Right. And
the tax efficiency, and
now I'm not going to be in control of that lump sum of money that's getting yield because I'm putting it in Facebook or Microsoft or alternate investments. And I potentially could blow that life savings when, in actuality, I knew how to do dentistry. I knew how to run the business of dentistry.
Well, you learned it. There were points in my life where I hated my business.
I'm not
and
saying
I wanted
me
to sell
specifically.
It.
I'm saying,
but I want to speak to the people that don't like their businesses right now. They hate them and they want to sell it. You can fix it.
But here's why dentistry is the best profession in the world, is that we have the freedom of the direction of the practice we want to take in. If we want more time, right? You don't have to work 6 days a week to get to $1.5 million of EBITDA. Slow down, go to 3 days a week and get $1 million of EBITDA. So you have freedom of time.
You can maximize for anything.
You want freedom. If you want freedom for building net worth, then fine, go grab a bunch of real estate, get multiple locations. You can optimize for impact. You can do whatever you want. But once you sell the golden goose and you sell the confine of that tax advantage situation of the golden goose, you are in a completely different paradigm.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you guys are saying. I'm not disagreeing. In most cases, I think that it is probably wise to hold on to your practices. I don't know if you guys knew this about me, but I just unloaded my last 4 practices about 6 weeks ago, and I'm out of clinical dentistry at this point. I'm glad I made the decision. But there's certain things that I miss about it already. I miss my team a lot. I miss the actual pace of the day. I miss my favorite patients. I miss doing clinical dentistry on a regular basis. I still have my hands in lots of different things like mission projects where I'm getting my hands wet there. And I'm co-owner of Colorado Surgical Institute, where we're doing all-in-X and implant training. So I'm working on patients there. So I have a lot of other things going on, but in my particular situation, the reason that it was better for me to let those practices go, and I'm not everybody, but the reason it was better for me was because I already I had reached my freedom number about 5 years ago. So I didn't have the pressure of needing the practices to support my lifestyle. That's one thing. The second thing is because of the nature of where I chose to create my group of practices. And this was the last 4 of 16 practices that I owned, more of a remote area and a high volume model, right? So it was difficult for me to get really, really good associates where I live. Even that's even with a megaphone and being able to recruit from all over the world, really still had a difficult time getting really high quality associates. And that became, a revolving door that was just stressful for the last 5 or 6 years. And then not to mention that the changes in the workforce dynamic where, hygiene is, in a remote area, not just in metropolitan areas like San Francisco and Dallas, but in a very, very limited workforce pool, we're really, really leveraging the supply and demand dynamics in my particular area. So those are things that I was willing to continue to fight through all of that stuff. But to me, it was like, okay, in this particular stage of my career, met my freedom number. I have all of these challenges every single day. It's absorbing the vast majority of my life, and I have 6 other businesses to run.
There you
so
go.
For me, it made
that's
perfect
the key.
sense.
That's the key. The context for your situation is quite different than 90% of people.
Yeah, most
right?
people, it's 95 or plus percentage of their net worth or their income comes from their practices. And I just want to say
they don't have a
that
purpose for the next leg up of what they're going to do post sale, Mark.
also too, they don't,
Again.
like, coming back full circle to the beginning of our conversation, they're in a bad spot business wise, they're pressured, they're just feeling physically and mentally burnt out, like you spoke to, and they don't realize that the lever to pull is to go to the DSI or Bulletproof or improve those systems. Peter and I will be speaking at the AACD, and I'm really proud of the AACD for having even some business courses, because if you think about these clinical powerhouses, they really focus on just learn your clinical mastery, and then, like, the field of dreams, shit will just work out. And the fact that they're open to having us there, and Peter gave me this like monologue for the intro, is like, this is going to be pound for pound the greatest lever that moves dollars into your bottom line. And if you ask most dentists what's stressing them out, a lot of it's financial pressure. So don't make a macro movement. You might just need a micro movement. Like the same way your successes and failures lie in microns, you might need a micro pivot. It might just be go to DSI or Bulletproof or some other qualified coaching program that can actually help you fix your business, because people only sell businesses they hate. And as a person who's been in business for 24 years, there are there's decades of my life where I freaking hated my business. I just get through the day. And when I built it correctly and changed it to work for me as a true business owner, now I love it. Now you give me a 15 multiple and I'm not selling it. I'm saying that publicly, honestly. A 15 multiple, I would not sell my practice today. That's where I'm at today. But like a 7, 10, 15 years ago, call, ring the bell.
Where do I sign, right?
Yeah. That's amazing, dude. And that's a huge accomplishment to be able to say that about your business and to be that resolute about your love for what you've created. That is what we would say, eating your own cooking. So it's like, okay, so if you're trying to sell that, creating this business that basically is very, very profitable and you enjoy being inside of it, if you say that it's possible to create that coming from where you came, I would say that is the right decision, 7 days a week. But that's not the case for everybody.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I agree with you also in that if it's not you guys or if it's not us, you got to get in front of some people that have actually walked the walk. There's no logical reason to make the same mistakes that somebody else is willing to help you navigate through.
And so many times, Mark, and I know you have to go, but so many times I see people make these draconian.
I bought myself another 10 minutes.
Okay.
Did you really? Wow.
I did.
You blew off Oprah? You told her?
I did. She's all right.
Oprah.
She'll wait for me.
Okay, I appreciate that.
But Mark, you may see this, and I see you. I seem like Dennis is professional. We make these stressed out draconian moves of, oh my gosh, I'm burnt out. Sell the practice. Oh my gosh, I'm burnt out. Right? It's as opposed to, like Craig is saying, these little micro movements. And I encourage people, if they're making big decisions, sit on your hands for a few weeks, or take that vacation that you think you're going to go do it for a month, because you dream about the day when you can go sit in the beach chair with a Corona bottle. Go do it for a month, right? Don't sell your practice. Just go beta test that for a month and see how you feel at the end. I assure you, you'll be ready to get back to work.
Yeah, you feel differently. Not a week vacation, not 2 weeks, but like take 3. The wheels won't fall off of everything. If you're really considering a draconian move, a massive move of your life, you can owe it to yourself and your bottom line. And by the way, if you wind up selling, you could tell the companies that are there to normalize your adjusted EBITDA. I took 1 month off. You can see over the last 5 years, I've never done that before. Have another doc come in. If you're really facing burnout, that might not be a bad idea, because for a guy who's taken off multiple month of vacations, you feel like, at least for me, at week 3, I'm like, what the hell am I doing in my life? My wife thinks I'm her assistant at that point. I'm like, you know what? I'd rather like work on patients for at least to get called doctor versus like, hey, Craig, since you're not working today, could you blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh my God. Like, you know, I'm like the nanny now.
Happened? What just
What just
happened?
yeah, what just happened here?
I'll add to that that one of the main levers that I utilized when I faced burnout, which probably happened a half dozen times in my 21-year clinical career, was I would schedule a mission trip. So mission trips to me were that was the fastest accelerant to getting me outside of burnout, because it reminded you of the awesomeness we have in our skill set and what we are able to do for human beings outside of money. So that is the number one thing. And I'm going to take this opportunity.
Really,
if you guys are replaying this on your podcast,
we will.
I would love to just give a little shout out to our brand new foundation that we just started in January. It's called Smile Outreach International. We're having our first big fundraising event, which is the Saturday after our summit on June 17th. But that's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that this foundation is my next chapter. So this is one of the main reasons why I felt comfortable selling my dental practices, because I'm going to put all of my energy into this.
Yes.
Our vision is to have fixed clinics in the third world. We want to have half dozen of them, about Dominican Republic, some probably 2 in Africa, Southeast Asia, Mexico, maybe Samoa, maybe Tonga. Those are some areas that we are investigating right now. I want to put fixed clinics in there and utilize the megaphone to rotate people through there and really just help those.
We want to be a part of that.
That gave me chills, but I'm proud to be your friend. That's incredible, Mark. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good for you, man.
I want to be I think we can speak. I can speak on behalf of Peter. We want to be a part of that.
100%.
Just out of curiosity, would you be willing or able to incorporate a for-profit learning in some of those third world countries? Because I know that there's been really great implant type lectures and DR and stuff, like, because I know in the past, there's been really great abilities to provide implant therapy in third world countries for people. And it's out of our, national licensure.
Like a training
so
facility.
if you could have, like, obviously the emergent care, like in the DR, but if you'd be open or willing to have like a for-profit implant therapy type thing, because that would be very valuable for a lot of dentists.
I think the DR is a natural spot for that. What I don't want to do is muddy the waters, and for anybody ever to be able to say that you're doing this for some sort of financial gain.
I had a non-for-profit too. That was my biggest thing with that.
I would agree with that, Mark. I think
I agree that's smart.
You can start confusing capitalism with altruism, right? I mean, it's
and if there's like 1% capitalism, then the whole thing is tainted. It's true. That's very wise of you. I felt the same thing.
I mean, think about the leverage and the influence that you guys have, right? You guys have 300 plus podcasts out there floating around in the world. You speak to thousands of people all over the world every single day, or every time one of your episodes come out. I feel the same kind of the same responsibility to do something in a positive way for that, not just for my own financial, enhancement. So this is just the next natural thing that I think anybody that has everybody that has an audience has a responsibility to do. So
I love it. We want to get behind this, bud. I love this. I think
I would love to be doing jungle dentistry with you guys at some point. That would be, can you imagine that? Be like
I'm ready.
a dream for me. Yeah.
I'd love that too.
That'd be amazing.
Dentistry. Sounds fun.
So stay tuned. Smile Outreach International. I'll keep you guys posted if you're honestly interested in participating 100%. In some way.
Who are you having? What big timer are you having come speak at your summit? You had my wife's cousin once upon a time, Peyton Manning. That's my wife's cousin.
No kidding.
Yeah,
he was awesome.
Second cousin. He's cool.
We're trying something. He was the best guest we've ever had, I think.
Really?
We're
That's
something
good.
Different. We're doing something different this year.
It's a surprise.
No,
we're doing something different. We're not going to tell you.
No. It's not a surprise at all. We are highlighting our black belt coaches. So we have 16
Ah,
amazing
That's
black
awesome.
coaches. All of them started off as white belts, and they're all black belts now, and they coach. They do the vast majority of the coaching in our group. So they are going to be collectively
But
the
typically
keynote
you
speakers.
have had a big name headliner, right? Like in the
Yeah,
past,
yeah.
right? Okay. Just making sure I wasn't dreaming this. Okay.
Yeah, James Hinchcliffe, our the Indy race car driver / Dancing with the Stars guy was last year. He was a huge hit.
Really?
We had David Goggins until that
Yeah.
Oh,
got
that's
canceled.
awesome.
Scares me.
Yeah, but yeah, we've had some big names, but we're going
You're
a
like a
different
dental
direction.
David Goggins to me. You should do like
Well,
some
no, Mark just
video.
has the biggest biceps in dentistry.
I
That's
know, but
all.
I could
That's
just
what it
picture
is.
him running through the hills where he lives in those mountainous areas. Like, stay
Yeah.
hard.
Where
Mark
is
your
it? Where
KPIs,
is the
stay hard.
conference, Mark? Is it? Where is it? Is it in your backyard again? Kind of thing. Sorry.
No, see, another thing that we're changing this year, we wanted to make it easy because our 3-year contract ran out with the JW Marriott in Scottsdale. So we took the opportunity to move venues, and it's going to be in San Antonio at the La Cantera Resort. Amazing venue, but we can only fit 650 people in there. Last year we had almost 750 people. So this year we're limited in size, but it's halfway, for people on the East Coast to
Yeah.
get there versus people from the West Coast.
Midway.
So,
Yeah.
and it's a gorgeous resort. It's one of my favorite resorts in North America. It's just
That's
beautiful.
awesome.
And who'd have thunk like San Antonio, right?
Antonio.
You guys are from beautiful places, but
Yeah, Peter
San Antonio.
Peter
Craig
made a
is.
step up this year. Peter said we're going to the Win in Vegas. I was like,
oh,
gulp.
really?
Yeah, so we're August 11th and 12th at the Win. So
Yeah, we make our conferences not for profit, Mark. We just go to like
Yeah.
these grandiose places and
blow
That's
blow it
our
all in the free
altruism.
bar. And
You guys have a nonprofit too.
we
Yes,
do.
right.
Yeah, actually, Bulletproof is a nonprofit. Yeah, it's true. My practice was that's what happens when I get involved. I turn
That is
things into
my
altruistic.
that is my 22nd wedding anniversary, August 11th.
You want to come? We'll give
Yeah,
you a
you
suite
want-
at the Win. You'll look like a hero.
Yeah, Leslie. Is Leslie, right? Your wife?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
you and
love to
Leslie
come.
would love to come
And,
say
I'm extending an invitation to both of you guys too, if you're available.
What's the
June
date again?
16th.
I'm sorry, June.
June 16th and 17th.
Okay, got it.
Maybe
Cool.
I'll do that. What's the
I will say, I checked this out. This is not a flex. This is a shout out to the La Cantera Resort. So they have separate casitas for the people that are hosting events. So they have like 11 casitas. Like you have to take a golf cart and all this stuff to get to the main resort. And so they gave me, because this is a larger event, they gave me like the Mac Daddy casita. And they're like, oh, we call this the LeBron James suite because every time he plays against the San Antonio Spurs, he requests this particular suite. And I'm like, well, cool. It's good to know. They have like 2 outdoor showers on that particular suite. And it's
Can
like
Peter and I stay with
you
you and your wife there? Is that okay? I mean,
yes,
it sounds fairly
yes,
large.
Because,
I mean, if we're going to do
it's
jungle
big enough.
dentistry together, we might as well get familiar, and spend your time in your 5,500 square foot suite.
LeBron James suite? I don't know.
Yeah,
I want to bring a black light.
I'm stoked.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
See what
Hey
goes
guys, don't
down.
touch the walls. Don't touch
Don't
the
touch the
walls.
walls. Bring your own.
Why? What's wrong? What reference am I missing here?
It could be like a Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt
Oh,
Chamberlain,
yeah,
kind of the
yeah,
modern
yeah.
day.
Yeah,
he
LeBron
could
might
be.
be the modern day Wilt Chamberlain.
Covered
Who
with
knows?
DNA.
Oh,
that's
well.
right. There you go.
Well,
Well, Mark,
I'll
it
leave
was
that one
awesome.
alone.
What's the website for the registration? I'm actually asking for my own edification on
Oh yeah, sure. TrueDentalSuccess.com. And you
mhm.
can click on the events tab. But don't do it that way. If you guys want to come, just text me and I'll make
You
sure
got
that you have
You got it. That'd be awesome.
I want to go.
VIP
I do too.
experience.
I do
We would
too.
love to have you guys.
That would be
It'd be my
amazing.
pleasure.
What was
And
the
come
other
to
thing?
ours. That'll be fun for your wife. Seriously.
Oh,
We'll get the suite at the
hey,
Win
and-
is that's an epic wedding anniversary gift there.
I would freaking love it. I would love to be at the Win in August. Okay, so I'll check my schedule. You guys check your schedules.
You got
And then
it.
also the most important thing would be the Saturday night on the 17th of June. We usually have a white party or some kind of like fun festive party to celebrate the end of the summit. This year it's a black tie gala, and all the proceeds from the gala, we have a bunch of live auction gifts and stuff like that. All the proceeds of that gala will go to Smile Outreach International,
Nice.
like 100%.
Oh, I got an idea.
we
Maybe we
have,
could
like-
offer like a mastermind ticket for us to go into your gala. that'd be
Oh,
neat or something like that.
That'd be amazing.
Big ticket
That'd
item.
be amazing. What a great way for us
That
to
is
be able
cool,
to
Mark.
collaborate.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll let you bounce. I know you got to go, and it was always good connecting, buddy. And yeah, can't wait to see you in person next.
I really appreciate you guys, all you do for the profession.
Likewise, brother.
It's great. I mean, I don't know. I think it says something about us that we're able to have this great friendship and not feel like threatened by one another. You guys have a mastermind. I have a mastermind. You guys have a summit. I have a summit. I will promote you guys. You guys promote me.
Isn't that cool?
You know,
That's cool.
it's amazing. And you guys have been nothing but awesome friends throughout the years. And I'm so glad to know you. I mean,
Yeah, thank you
Yes.
so much. It's awesome. Listen, my only hope is that there's more people out there like what you're doing and what we're trying to do to help the profession. We need it. And there's a lot of predatory forces that are coming into brand new people I see on Instagram. And like, where'd that guy show up from or that gal? And they're not,
Yeah.
they're not even related to the profession. So more power to the people that have the ground game that have actually done it. That's my hope. So we wish you nothing but success. You're likewise, you're great for the profession and a great friend. And we appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys. We'll talk
All
to
right,
you soon, man.
See you, pal.
Take care.
Later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.